and then they start turning into dragons. And these two dragons start dancing all over the green screen. I was like, oh shit. And I looked around and I was like, does everybody see this? No, all right, whatever.
Welcome back, everyone. We are super excited to have another very special guest on the show. This is a classmate of mine way back in the day, whenever at the very beginning of our careers, and we were going through buds as Frogman hopefuls. And now we've both done our whole career, gone our whole way, and it's been a little while since we've been able to catch up. So it's going to be really cool to see what we've been doing since those cold, miserable days in the surf zone there in Coronado. How you doing, Mr. Rivera?
Good. How about you, bud?
I am doing great. So from the last time that we really got to consistently hang out, we were pretty much in training in 267. We were cold, wet, sandy, miserable, and the focus was selecting and training those individuals that can perform and master chaos and get through some of those chaotic elements that war really is. So as we kind of begin this conversation, would you be able to maybe key us into a particular time in training in 267 or any of the classes that you ended up going to that highlights that chaotic environment and the push to thrive in those environments?
Yeah, man. We were talking right before this, and it spurred a memory up that I'm going to show you the story, and it's pretty funny. Do you remember the second phase swim pool comp instructor? His name was Jason Hahn.
Yes.
You remember how chill he was? He's super relaxed, super awesome. He even walked all lazy, just like he was just a super nice guy. He never yelled at anybody. He was just super fair and just a great guy. That guy he was my first LPO, and he picked up chief on my first deployment in Iraq. That was awesome just to be able to learn from him. He's now, I believe, in Texas. He's working for Greg Abbott's office for the governor of Texas.
That's excellent.
I believe he's working with Border Protection or Border Patrol, something like that. I don't really know. I got to catch up with him. But yeah, we deployed together, and he's always been an awesome guy. But going back to what you were talking about, chaos, you can't imagine him being very chaotic, right? Like he was just always super mellow, super cool, calm, and collected. I had him for my pool comp instructor. He was my lane tester, and you got the tanks on, and you go down to the bottom of the pool, and you're breathing. And I just remember having prepared so much for that, right? For pool comp, you got to go through the whole derigging procedure. You got to just make sure you know all the knots to untie. You just have to be very confident in that chaos that's coming because you know that it's going to suck for about, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. It's just going to absolutely suck, right? But I remember lining up, and I just so happened Jason's line opened up, and I jumped in, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to have Jason Hahn as my pool comp grader. This is going to be easy day. So you get in the water, jump down, and he hit me with the first surf hit, right? First surf hit, and I was like, oh, that's kind of he's shaking my tanks a little bit, right? I remember he put, they put their hand over it and then rip your mask off. Dude, he goes like this and just held it there for 5 seconds and then slowly took it off. I was like, this is going to be awesome, dude. And he ripped it off, and, he kind of tied some knots. I untied them, put everything back on, put my mask back on, and just kept chugging along. That was another thing. You remember how some of the instructors, they'd rip your mask off and you wouldn't see it again until after the test
and the
was
whole
done?
time you're just trying to do it
Yeah.
basically blind or burning your eyes with the chlorine.
Yeah. So yeah, Jason was just, like I said, super chill with it. He gave me my mask back, so I put it back on. I was like, whoa, this is freaking cool. This is awesome.
Do a clearance.
So, yeah. So then I end up getting hit again, the surf hit again. This one was slightly more aggressive, but only because at that time it was Jason and another instructor. So now I got two guys on me, kind of like shake my tanks
Mhm.
up, toss me all around. I was like, oh, this second one is a bit more aggressive than the first one. Still super chill in comparison to what I had envisioned in my head. I untied the knot, popped the regulator back in my mouth. Again, I had my mask. I was like, whew, this is pretty fucking killer. Put the mask on, clear the mask out. I'm like, all right. So you just keep crawling along, keep crawling along. Third hit comes, and this is where it's like, you got to take the tanks off, right? So get hit, take the tanks off, untie everything, put the tanks back on. I'm breathing back through my regulator. At this time, like, I don't have my mask anymore. So I was like, all right, cool. At least I understand this is the way it's going to be. You have to put everything on in a certain sequence. There's a very process and procedure driven culture that was driven in at that very initial stage, in second phase. So I put what I thought was the right process on, right? Weight belt,
Trace
waist
those
strap, chest strap,
straps.
whatever you're
Yeah.
tracking, everything. Yeah. I thought that I had it just wired tight because I had it in my head, this stupid song that I was singing just to make sure I was getting the process right. So then I do it again and again and again and again. It's like 4 or 5 big ass surf hits. And every time, like, the knots get harder and more involved. And I just keep on untying them, keep on untying them. Like, damn, dude, this is taking forever. This is way longer than 20 minutes. I thought we were going to be like super chill, Jason Hahn. It felt like it was starting out that way. Anyway, I, end up finishing the test. Like I said, it felt like it was way too long. Finish the test, you're holding your breath forever, and then you kiss the deck, and then you exhale all the way up, which felt like you're coming up out of a 30-foot pool. It's
Right.
really only whatever, like 10, 12 feet or something like that. I don't know, but you get up to the top, say, I feel fine, and I hear from Jason, I'm totally expecting, pass, Rivera, move on. He yells, fail. I was like, what the hell? What's going on, dude? And I looked and I was like, "What did I do wrong?" He's like, "Tell me the procedure for putting your tanks back on." So I explained it to him, and he's like, "Yep, that's exactly what you did. It's wrong. You're supposed to put waist strap, then weight belt, or whatever one." I had
Yeah.
one of them backwards, and I was like, "Fuck, dude, this sucks, man." I was super pissed. I was like, "Man, I've wasted such an awesome opportunity." So you go back in, you train more. The weekend comes, train more, and then I had like everything wired tight. So then I go up for the pool comp the second try. You get 3 tries. Second try, and it was that officer who'd just come from the STVs. Do you remember that guy?
I'm trying to
He was
think.
the OIC of second
Mitch
phase.
Mitch Hall?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He just came from SDVs and like he was diving as your life, right? You're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you talking about? I'm trying to go to Iraq. I'm not trying
Right.
to go swim pools.
Yeah.
So I ended up having him, but thankfully, I had it all, like I said, wired tight, and I ended up passing that second time. I remember the first, you get in the water with Mitch, and he just hit me super hard. He ripped that mask off my face, and I was like, damn, dude, I'm pretty sure you broke my nose. That fucking sucks, man. And I felt like he was super mad at me. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So anyway, I ended up, long story short, I ended up passing that pool, come up to the surface, Rivera pass. And he asked me afterwards, he's like, this is your retread? Like, you did great. Like, there was nothing wrong. Who'd you have the first time? And I was like, oh, Instructor Han. He's like, you failed with Jason? I was like, oh, Jesus, dude, relax. Yeah. So then
Dude.
everybody in the pool, I remember all the different instructors like, Jason, you failed somebody? He was like, yeah, he fucked up. He kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. Told Jason that after we met in my first platoon. Like I said, it was his LPO push, and he was like, "Yeah, I think you're probably the only person I ever failed in pool cop. I would make it super easy." I was like, "Oh, I know. I trust me. I believe it." But I was overconfident. I was way overconfident. I was just like, you have something in your head, and it doesn't live up to the expectation. I remember after that, after I finished that second pool comp, I was like, "Whew, all right." Good. Nothing hard is ever going to happen again. And I was way wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, 'cause you're
Way
like, "Oh,
wrong.
post pool comp, you're basically a team guy by that point."
Smooth sailing,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
dude. I was
Oh,
way
man.
wrong. I don't remember. Do you remember in third phase when we were on the O course and I lawn darted out of remember that window? Like you're on the O course on the island and you,
Yep.
you climb up and you're in that window and you jump to the rope. right? Well,
Mhm.
short guys like us jump, but bigger dudes, they just reach out and grab
Right,
it.
yeah.
I jumped over the rope because I just overcommitted, and this is fully kitted up in the O course. Fully kitted up, I lawn darted over the thing and fucked my shoulder up, dislocated my shoulder, and then ended up having to go back to the Strand to get X-rays. Like they were like, "Yeah, you broke your shoulder." I broke my collarbone, dislocated my shoulder, and then got
Like
like a
a
slap tear.
yeah, slap
So
here.
they were like, "Well, you can keep going," because at that point we only had like the FTX week left. There was like 2 weeks of training left, or like a week and a half. So we were doing that O course, and then we were starting FTXs that next like 2 days later, or whatever. So I went back, got my X-rays and everything, and I couldn't do much of the FTXs, which the FTXs were all like bullshit anyway. It's not like you're actually practically doing anything. You're just going through the motion. So I would
Yeah.
go on the FTXs and have my arms slung up in my kit, right? And then during the day, there was man, dude, I can't remember what instructor it was, but anyway, he was like, "Well, you can't do this hard shit of the FTXs, so we're gonna make you do something else hard." And I had to get wet and sandy every hour on the hour for I think it was like 3 or 4 days.
Oh,
By the
man.
fourth day, Ames, Ames. Do you remember him?
Okay,
Lee
yeah, yeah.
Ames, Lee.
Yep.
Yeah,
He was one of the medics there, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was the one who I had to report to every hour on the hour because they were like, well, you're stupid. Like, fucking hurt yourself a week and a half before. So, like, they were like, we're not going to waste the time and roll you back, right? Because
Yeah.
you're freaking, whatever, 10 days away from graduating. So
Yeah, you've
let's
already
just
passed
keep
most
you
of the
pushed
stuff.
forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
FTX is a lot of it, like you're saying, so the final training exercise, so, like, especially, like, the trainings like BUDS, like the SEAL training, is to graduate, you have, like, a final test, so that's what they call it, a final training exercise, and that's where they're putting all of the pieces together that you've learned up to that point. So, yes, it's kind of, going through the motions because you've already passed all those tests. You've already demonstrated your competency for the shooting, for the IADs, your immediate action drills, for your OTB procedures over the beach, whatever you're swimming, patrolling. You've already trained to and shown successful completion to those standards. The FTX is just putting all of those pieces together into essentially a full mission profile, which is kind of the lingo that it became as we went through the teams. But yeah, the FTXs were like the big test gate, check in the box final. But because you have your whole class with you, you can cross load those roles and responsibilities. So if we're going to get that down pilot, you're obviously not going to be the guy carrying the stretcher,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I
So,
got one arm. So I was carrying either like the AW gunner's gun. I would like when they were carrying the pilot, I
mhm.
would carry the assault, the automatic weapon in my hand, my good hand. And then I would have everything like slung around me like a ladder. I just became like a human cargo net, right? Just throw it on Riv. He'll take care of it. Yeah. And then when I
Yeah.
wasn't doing that dumb shit, I would have to go get wet and sandy. And I remember just like, it'd be like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Everybody'd be sleeping. My alarm would go off. I'd be like, fuck, dude, this sucks so bad. But I was supposed to do it for 4 days. And then
Oh,
on the
man.
third night, Lee was like, this is getting so old. Just stop. I give up. Like, you're fine. I was like, oh, thank God, dude. So I finally slept through a night. Yeah.
That's
It was
awesome. Yeah.
so dumb. So
Man, the
yeah, like
sleep
chaos.
deprivation was
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
real.
I remember, and then on that the deployment with Jason as our LPO, I remember I was super amped. Like, so we just landed, and we're in Iraq, and I went out to Al-Anbar province out in Ubaidy, so it's like pretty much on the Syrian border
Mhm.
in Iraq. So it's pretty much as far west as you can go in Iraq, and that was like the wild wild west. It was fun because there was nobody out there. There was no head shed out there. There was nothing. It was man camp, and then we were the captains and mayors of man camp, right? So it was
That's
super
awesome.
cool. And like we would hold down security every once in a while. We would do all kinds of just regular fun team guy shit. But then our where the base was, it was pretty cool. It was right on the Euphrates River.
Mhm.
So I got to, swim in the Euphrates River. Our range actually, so like the range that we would go and practice on for ops and stuff, in most like bigger bases, the range is going to be on the facility, right? Like on the base. Well, our range, because our facility was so small, like the base was so small, we would have to go outside of the base and then go down to the river in the Euphrates River. And then there was a pretty sweet ass bridge that we would jump off. But then there was like a range, like a small range that we would just go shoot at. We would shoot there like 4 or 5 days a week, training, practicing. But while I was there, I remember, I don't think didn't sleep for like, I want to say like 10 days, maybe even 2 weeks, just because, like I said, I was so amped. Like, I'm finally here. I finally
I'm at the
got there,
show.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I did it, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And this was like the second op within that time frame. And the first op we went on, it was fine. Everything worked out great. Second op we went on, they were starting to notice, like, the head medic for our platoon. I was the assistant medic. His name was Justin Mendenhall. I don't know if you ever met him, Mendy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a Master Chief now. He's freaking super killer. I think he's the
That's awesome.
Master Chief for Team 3, maybe? I can't remember. But anyway, we were there and I was telling Justin, I was like, I don't think I've slept in like 2 weeks. And I think I'm starting to hallucinate. And he was like, well, you're fine. So just like get some sleep tonight. And I was like, dude, I
Yeah.
can't. Like, I lay down and it's like whatever, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's when you finally like, put your head down because you've been working all night. And you lay down and your mind's racing. You're like, holy shit, this is crazy. This is awesome. So
Yeah.
that whole day goes by. We go on that second op, and that one, our platoon chief, like, we didn't have any officers. So you remember how in Buds we didn't have any officers?
Yeah.
In my first platoon, we didn't have any officers.
Wow.
It was killer, dude. Yeah. We started with an officer. His name was Rob Sarver. And then he got ripped away to go to Afghanistan. And our chief petty officer, Juan Vasquez, he ended up like pretty much taking over as the OIC. Because at that time, Jason picked up chief. So we had two chiefs, and Juan was a super old, salty frogman. So they were like, well, Rob's not doing anything anyway, relative to all the shit that you're doing. So Juan, you'll just be the OIC. Everybody just kind of elevated, and we go on this second op, and Juan looks at me, and he's a Puerto Rican dude like me, but much taller. And he's like, "You okay?" I'm like, I think so. I'm fine. Yeah, let's go." And he's like, "Well, instead of you being a assaulter, so let's just have you on the gun in the MRAP." So, you're on like the video game, like joystick, and you have the red crosshairs. And I remember like we go out on the op, everything's going fine. We get to drop the guys off, and I stay in the truck, and I'm on the joystick, just constantly hovering around, looking around. I'm like, oh man, I hope somebody friggin' comes around this thing. I got a
I'm ready.
live, 50 cal. I'm ready to light some dudes up.
Yeah.
And the red crosshair, so it's like it's a night vision screen, so everything's in green, different shades of green, and then you have the crosshairs that are in red, and the crosshairs start moving and wiggling. I was like, oh shit, what's going on here? And then they start turning into dragons. And these two dragons start dancing all over the green screen. I was like, oh shit. And I looked around and I was like, does everybody see this? No, all right, whatever. So I just enjoyed the show for a little bit. The guys came back, got into the MRAP. And I was like, Justin, you see these dragons? He's like, oh, okay, we got to put you to sleep, dude. We got to give you some Ambien so that way you shut it down because this is not good. They changed me out on the drive back. I didn't even realize that that's what my brain is doing. Like, it's like, well, you're not going to sleep? Fine, we'll put you to sleep. We'll get you there. You don't want to get there? We'll get you there. The eyes are open. You just go to a dream state. So, yeah, it was the interesting stuff that you do in the teams when you think, like, when you're going through training, can't get any more tired, can't get any more like physically uncomfortable. And then you get to the platoon, you're like, I'm way fucking colder than I was in Buds or in SQT. I'm way more tired. I'm way more beat up. I just got to
Yeah.
keep going. This is retarded. Like, this is so fucking hard. But yeah, it's good, man. Just a,
Yeah.
a good lifestyle to live.
That's pretty wild. Like, there's so many things that you touch on that I'm like, "Oh my gosh," like, I'm relating to that. I hear you. We'll touch on Iraq, and then I'll rewind a little bit and get back to kinda like the pool comp stuff because there's some interesting tie-ins there. But I had trouble sleeping in Iraq too. Like, I think that's where I really noticed that I had some things going on with not being able to sleep, all that kinda stuff. We lived in those little chews, which are like
Yeah.
shipping containers that kinda divided off walls with whatever we could use, and I'm sharing a wall with the master at arms. So, not a team guy. He's there on the base helping with force protection, and he went on a couple mobility operations with us and stuff like that, either in the turret or something. But, he helped out where he could. But I'm sharing that wall with him. I'm trying to sleep. I think I'm sleeping, and I'm like kind of like winding up like a spring. And then as soon as I relax, I just wham, and my like tight rubber band, my arms would just pop and I'd smack that wall. And just completely involuntary, didn't mean to do it. And then so finally, like time's going on, like finally, like I pull him aside one time, like, hey, listen, man, I know I'm probably keeping you up. I don't mean to, but I just have been having this like involuntary reaction where I just get really tight and then just as I relax and fall asleep, I hit that wall. He's like, oh, is that what's going on? I thought you could hear me. And you were like banging on the wall to try to get me to quiet down. So I'm like turning down like my movie or like I'm on like a call with my wife and I'm trying to talk to her. And I'm just like, how does this guy hear me? I'm whispering. And I'm like, no, dude, I couldn't hear you at all. I just freaking, my body was doing some weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can't control it. It's
Yeah.
involuntary. Like, trust me, like I wanted to go to sleep, but it's like you're finally there, and then the engine in your mind feels like it's like you got your pedal to the metal. It's like, wow, it's revving at like the
Mm-hmm.
top speed. And you're like, oh
Yep.
man, we're gonna go do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. And it's easy also to focus because you're singularly focused. Family's back home, everything is fine, and you are there. So you're in like high performance mode all day and all
Mm-hmm.
night. And then when you're not operating, you're working out, right? So then you're just trying to get big and strong, and you're just trying. You're trying and trying and trying.
Oh,
And like I say, that's the only thing I can equate it to. It's like you're flooring it in your brain and you're operating
mm-hmm.
like that effectively and efficiently, but you can't control your foot that's just slammed down to the ground. You want to like pull it off, but you can't, right? But anyway, I took that Ambien, that kind of reset me, and then got back into like a regular-ish sleep routine where, you sleep in the day, awake at night,
Yep.
getting after it. And then I remember we closed that base down in Ubaidy, like all the way out in Anbar. So like it was pretty sweet. So like we didn't sleep in shoes. Like we had regular huts that we were sleeping in. It was pretty sweet. But when we shut the base down, they were like, all right, everybody on the base is gonna head over to Camp Cupcake. That's what we called it. I can't remember the name of it, but that's just memory is serving. So everybody went
Was it
back to Camp
Al-Asad?
Cupcake. Yes, Al-Asad. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So that's where I was primarily based out of. We went to
Okay.
Ubaidy. We did some work with those guys. We did some interops and stuff, but we were
Yeah.
living on Al-Asad at Camp Cupcake,
Yeah.
allegedly.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, so
apparently.
like
Yeah.
we called it Camp Cupcake because every time we went to go visit, it was like sweet living. Everybody was comfortable, but there were so many rules and so much
They
bullshit
had
you had to
galleys. You could
do.
go eat at
Yeah,
an actual galley.
we
Yeah.
didn't have a galley. We had a kitchen, and then we would have like people bring us food and stuff, doing what I was doing. So anyway, we were out in Ubaidi and shutting that base down. And when we shut it down, everybody on the facility moved over to Camp Cupcake. So, like all the Army, all the Marines, everybody
Mhm.
moved over there, enablers, everybody moved over to Camp Cupcake. And then we stayed for an additional like 2 days. And for 2 days, it was like the Lord of the Flies. It was like it was wild, dude. We were bored as hell, not operating, but we were just holding down security. So like there was the bigger base, and then we had our smaller base towards the edge of Ubaidi. So and then we had the MRAP, so we would park them on our internal base against the big HESCO barriers, with all the barbed wire around it. We would park that so that way the 50 cals would be mounted up on the MRAPs over the edge of where the HESCO barriers were. So we were like holding down security on our smaller facility just in case anybody got wild. Like we knew that they knew that we shut the base down. And we knew that like they wanted to come in and get whatever they needed off of the
Mhm.
base, like wires, debt wire, whatever was there, they were going to take.
Yep.
So, like I said, for 2 days, we were just going crazy, just on edge and having a good time. But at night, that's when you're not operating and there's internet's down, everything is down. There's no more creature comforts. So we ended up, I think on the first night, we're like, all right, let's start a big bonfire. Do you remember the bonfire? Did you ever go to that bonfire out in where I'm talking about in Ubaidi?
I don't recall it.
It
If
was
if
like a
if
it
we
was like
went
a
through there, we were
crawl.
usually just going in there for like a mission brief or something like that,
Yeah.
and I don't recall the bonfire area.
It was a pretty big bonfire, but it was around it was a wooden deck, a big wooden deck,
Okay.
and that's where we had like
Mhm.
chairs and everything to hang out around
Yep.
the bonfire.
Yep. We
So
built one of those on our compound as well. Yeah.
yeah, it was a good time. So we ended up lighting a fire and we're burning it, and we're like, man, tomorrow they're going to come. All the Iraqis are going to come and they're going to dig in the ground, pull all these wires up. They're going to get crazy. They're going to really like just rip this place to shreds. Let's burn this motherfucker to the ground. So we ended up taking that bonfire, tossing like chairs and everything and couches into the bonfire. And we're like, let's make it bigger. Let's make it bigger. It got so big that wooden deck that surrounds the bonfire that caught on fire. And then all the buildings surrounding, it was crazy, man. So anyway, the next day we were like, that got a bit out of hand. That was a bit crazy. I guess we do need dad because when mom's around, we have a lot of fun. And this yes man shit's got to end. So we
Oh,
ended up
man.
that second night, we were like, all right, let's relax tonight because there's nothing left to burn. And we're leaving tomorrow. So anyway, that next day they come. The Iraqis come and they're like ripping the whole base to shreds. And you're like, all right, there can't be anything. Like they're ripping walls apart, you know what I mean? To try to get the cables that are in the walls. That all happens, hours go by, and you're like, dude, this place looks like a wasteland. Like there's nothing left of this base. And then this next crew comes in and they start digging into the ground. And they're digging in to try to see like what wires are below ground, like buried and stuff. Like, oh man, how the hell did they find all this stuff? It was crazy. So then we ended up staying there that whole day, that night, and then the next day we drove over to Al-Asad. Yeah, shut that base down. And then we built a huge facility, like a huge deck in the Al-Asad base, because there was two team guy bases on Al-Asad. There was the one where all the team guys were from, who were like already supposed to be there, and then there was this like hodgepodge crew of no officer guys coming over and just like kind of being assholes and just really messing stuff up. It was a lot of fun, man. That was a great time. No officers, and then the second pump, we had an officer. We had two officers. They were great dudes, but yeah, it was crazy. So like in buds, there's usually like one or two officers per class. Ours was with us up until SQT, and then an SQT disappeared, right? Because like he had to get held back for the next class because he had to go through professional development as an officer. So
Mhm.
all of SQT, like we had no officers. And that one officer we had, I can't remember his name, but he was a super cool guy. Like he was a normal dude. You remember that guy? What was his name?
So
You
I
talking
ended
about?
up rolling out after Hell Week from
Okay.
267. So I don't know the transition with
So
SQT and
he
things like
hopped into
that.
your class. What was the officer that hopped into your class in SQT?
A guy who was already a team guy, but he like went to college or something like that.
Yeah.
His last name was Simmons, Tommy Angry Boy Simmons. And so, he was cool. He was good mentor, good guidance, you know what I mean, for us while we were, young SQT students, but,
Yeah.
he was the big one that I remember.
It was Josh. It was
Yeah.
definitely Josh in our class, in our
Okay.
buds class.
Yeah.
There was only one officer. There was three officers in our buds class that started. One of them quit, and the other one got the shit kicked out of him until he quit. Because I remember it was during first phase. It was prior to Hell Week and first week of training, and he read the schedule wrong, but he didn't want to admit that he read the schedule wrong. And he's like, "We don't have time to go to lunch." And we were like, "We're fucking starving, dude. We gotta eat." And
Yeah.
he was like, "No, we can't. We got to stay here at the O course because the instructors they're on their way." Like I said, he read the schedule wrong. So
Uh-huh.
he kept us at the O course, and we were there for like an hour and 20 minutes on the O course waiting for the buds instructors. They come out and they're like, "Damn, you guys got here fast. What the hell happened?" There was nobody at the cafeteria. They said that they didn't receive anybody. And he was like, "Oh yeah, we skipped it. We had MRAs." And we were like, "That's bullshit. We didn't have MRAs. We didn't need anything,
We
dude.
didn't have any
We're
numbers, you didn't give me
starving."
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Echigaruga, you remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Etchy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
He ended up blasting through the whole class, running over to the officer. I can't remember this dude's last name, but I remember he grabbed him. Etchy is a big dude, right? He grabbed him, grabbed this O, dragged him over the berm, and you just heard him wailing on him for way too long. And he was like, "This is going to keep going until you quit." So the guy was like, "Well, I guess this is a gut check. I just got to eat this ass beating." But no, he went after it, Etchy went after it, and then like two other instructors went over the berm, And then you heard the ass whooping got bigger and bigger. We're like, holy shit, dude, this sucks so bad. So the guy comes crawling over the berm after he gets his ass whooped, crawls over the berm, and he's like, I quit, give me the bell. This is it. He was all bloodied up and everything. Yeah, they were
Oh,
like, they
man.
canceled the O course for us, and they're like, go eat something right now. Because, like, if
Wow.
any of you guys go down, that's going to be our ass, not his ass. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Dang.
were we going to say about pool comp?
Yeah, so I kinda got full Benny with pool comp. I had a similar kind of run that you had where it was like, whatever it was, I missed, like, some nuance of the procedure. I can't remember what it was, but I think with, Albert.
Oh my God, dude.
And so I was like, "Okay, that should be a fairly chill pool comp," you know what I mean? And I just failed some, like, nuance, and then it was just like the microscope's on you, you know what I mean? Like, they're looking at you for, like, everything. The microscope was already on me. 1, being a little guy, and then 2, I wasn't exactly a waterman. That is not where I shined at all, and prior to pool comp, I got my ass kicked with the tread.
Oh yeah.
The tread fucked me up. So, I already had, like, all the instructor's eyes on me, and so after I failed that one with Albert, like, I went all the rounds. I think I got, like, Marcus?
Yeah.
Instructor Marcus, and then,
Marcus.
like,
Yeah.
the other one that was from SDV or something like that, and
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
all, like, you hardly ever pass with those guys. I had, like, 2 of those guys, and then I think I had Lugo for my final test, but, I mean, he did not take it easy on me. I was, I think, the last person in the pool, been drinking water and just sipping whatever air you can sip, like, for I don't know how long, just like,
Yeah.
this is mostly water, but I know there's a little oxygen in there somewhere. So for the tread, though, the first time I went completely tits up,
Oh, you passed
like
out?
completely passed out. And not like I've done shallow water blackouts before where like I'm like, maybe doing like the 50-meter underwater swim or whatever. And I've like blacked out in scenarios like that. This blackout was way different. So, like, I was out. I think what we've determined was that it was like a hypercapnia type thing. Like, I built up so much CO2 in my system because I wasn't off gassing it through my breathing. I wasn't breathing well in the tread. And then I went into panic chaos city, you know what I mean? Just trying to tread with my
Yeah.
hands. And then they're splashing me. All the instructors are on me now because I'm not following procedures. It's like, blah, blah. I don't remember actually going out, and that's what kind of freaked me out in my subsequent attempts at the tread, is it's just like, I was there, and then I wasn't, and the next
Yeah.
thing I remember is I'm in the shallow end of the pool, Burger's pulling off all my twin 80s, pulling off my rig, whatever, pulling off all that stuff, and they're funneling me to that shallow end ladder, but I have no clue what's going on, no recollection of how I got there. I don't even have clear vision. It's like ink swells. Like somebody spilled ink over my eyes, and it's just this really weird, like, fluid movement of it. So every once in a while, I'll see, like, the ladder well and, like, the pool deck, but then it's just black again. And so I'm just out of my mind, can't even see things appropriately. The Master Chief, the CMC of Buds, is there just kind of observing or whatever, and he's asking me questions, and apparently that was funny and probably disrespectful because I think I was just like belligerent drunk, just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, motherfucker, mama. And so like it was just this straight comedy, and then like I just remember all this like black ink, and then like, okay, well, we had to wait for like the evolution to end or whatever while I'm sitting there talking to like the medic. And they're like, all right, cool. Now we're going to take you to Bud's Medical and get you checked out. Well, when that's happening, all of a sudden I see the whole class bear crawling around the pool deck. So I'm like, no, I got to join my class. So I try to like bear crawl off and they're like, nope, kind of basically like scoop me up, like, nope, you're going in the ambu. Come on, bud. And so got checked out. I didn't know this at the time. I found out later. Up to all of my tests at trying to accomplish this, I never even made it to the halfway point until
Oh,
the very last time. So I never made it
really?
past 2.5 minutes of just the tread. I passed out every single time.
Damn, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, it was nuts. I was definitely, the water was my weakest area. That just kind of makes me think about that chaos aspect. And what I experienced later on, and I know that a lot of our brothers go through, and other people who've lived in these like high risk, high octane communities, like you're talking, where we've just been keeping that engine revved for like way too long, they can kind of hit some of that chaos where they feel like they're drowning, where they feel like everything's overwhelming them in like the mental health aspect or like the PTSD operator syndrome area or arena of life. So, with that kind of being said, you had this amazing Navy career. You did great in BUDS, you did great in SQT, you did great things in Iraq, you did all these deployments. And then now you've transitioned and you're doing something completely different. So it's kind of like we have the fog of war. That's what we
Yeah.
trained to, that's what we lived in. But whenever we transition back, we kind of find ourselves face to face with like the fog of peace,
Hmm.
the fog of the uncertainty of all of the options around you, all the things going on, all of the paths that you can take, and maybe even the resources that are available. So right now, what it sounds like you're doing with Vetivize is you're taking that fog of peace, that chaos of that military members, veterans, anyone transitioning and going into the civilian world, they're leaving that fog of war, what they've been trained to, and they're entering this fog of peace. Do you mind telling me a little bit more about what you're doing with your Vetivize and your new mission and your new moves?
Yeah, for sure.